What's up everyone, FBaby here doing something a little different today. I've showed you a lot of farming vids, but I want to start demonstrating some flipping methods because at the end of the day, good flips are faster and easier than farming. The trick is finding them. For this video, I'm going to focus on motifs, since that was an area that was hard for me to understand as a new player, and it's something we still get questions about from time to time in Nerdcrux Anonymous. Firstly, if you have the option to use add-ons, you'll want to download both the Awesome Guild Store add-on and the TTC add-on, as well as the ATT, which is Arcadius Trade Tools add-on. If you can't, this method is going to be a lot more time consuming. You'll see me using a couple other add-ons such as like Price Tooltip and MM, but that's my personal preference. Secondly, we need to make a couple guiding principles. Obviously, the point of flipping items on Guild Traders is to make money, and we're not going to do that by buying something too expensive or just by selling something for 1 gold more than we paid for it. This is where we set up guiding principle number 1. We want to sell stuff for 20% more than we bought it for. This will net us a 13-ish% profit after guild dues and ZOS tax. Next, we need to determine what motifs are worth flipping in general. No one is buying Primal or Iniquina or Greymore at any price that's worth our time anyway. Generally speaking, your best targets for flipping are going to be motifs that take time and effort to obtain. Trial motifs, dungeon motifs, zone dailies that no one does, etc. This means you need to have at least a little knowledge of the source of a motif, which thankfully the kind folks of the internet make easy to find. You can head over to UESP and find a list of crafting motifs and their sources. I'll drop a link in the description as well. Some good potential targets might be Stag's Zen, Cold Snap, and Thorn Legion, since those all come from dungeons. Also, ideally, we'll be picking more armor pieces, chests, legs, shields, helmets, and not as many weapon pieces, as armor pieces tend to be showier and more desirable for costuming purposes. So our second guiding principle has to be that we can't waste money on or trade slots on flipping easy motifs. It's worth keeping in mind that you only have 30 slots per trader that your guild has, so with 5 guilds max, you only have 150 spots. You don't want to fill those all up selling 1,000 gold motifs. That's a waste of your time. Finally, we need to take a look at available supply. This ties in a bit to the last principle, but instead of examining the source and value of the motifs, we're looking at just how many are on the market. I can say with a good degree of confidence this is the most important aspect of flipping motifs. It doesn't matter if you found a sweet deal on a Pirewatch chest if there are 100 plus on the market, because now you're competing to get yours noticed, and that's not a situation you want to be in. You're looking for motifs that ideally have 30 or less listings on the market as stated by TTC. This is why I recommend the TTC add-on, as it gives you the listing numbers in-game, but you can always check TTC online as well. Going just a little deeper on this, there are really only 3 types of players who are buying motifs: collectors, achievement hunters, and other flippers. We can ignore other flippers because we're ideally not going to appear in their filters. I'll talk more about that in a future video. That leaves us collectors and achievement hunters. The people looking for achievements are likely going for True Style Master to unlock the Grandmaster Crafter achievement, which gives you the title, which means they're looking for a specific piece of a given motif, and they're likely to pay above average just to get the one piece they're missing. Collectors are a trickier market. They're players who just want to have everything, and while they might pay above average for a piece they don't have, they're likely to shop around and find a competitive price. This is why targeting something with a low supply really matters to us. We not only focus in on the collectors who are then kind of forced to go to our store, but we also focus on the achievement hunters. They will see our prices listed and just come get it from us. We don't want there to be a lot of options for shopping around. So our third general guideline is to focus on motifs that we see with a low supply. There are, of course, other factors that play into how successful you'll be at flipping: trader location, ongoing events, the state of the game in general, etc. But for now, we're going to use the guiding principles we just went over, summarized into one sentence. We want to target harder to obtain motifs with low supply that we can sell for a 20% profit. While I've been yapping, you've seen me shopping in the background. Let's go over what I've picked up. I'll be using the Arcadius Trade Tool add-on to check the price I paid for things. You can do that by looking at the purchase tab. It's pretty self-evident. And then making sure that I add 20% to the prices. In cases where I bought multiple of the same motif, I am just listing at the highest price I bought for, with the idea being that I don't want to make less money then I can. So if I bought one for 30,000 and one for 20,000, I'm going to be using 20% of 30,000 for both of them, so as to make the most amount of money, and also to give kind of a uniform price. If people see that the average price is whatever I'm offering, they will be more likely to pick it up. First up, we have some mercenary belts. They are not the most valuable thing in the game. They come from the mystery coffers that you get for undaunted keys. They're still rare enough that you can probably find them. I believe a lot of people probably donate these to their guild for people to take for free, or just destroy them when they get them, because for most hardcore dungeon runners who are just looking for specific gear pieces or for the monster masks that come out, they are probably stock full of their mercenary pages. Trinamax shields is the next one. We don't really have much to say here. Trinamax shields come from the dailies in Hrothgar. The dailies in Hrothgar are a pain because it's very likely that you get nothing from doing the dailies. I don't know why Zos has left that this way and kept it this way, but you have a low chance of getting them. So Trinamax is always kind of a good investment. I've made a lot of money selling Trinamax, what are they, legs, I guess, over the years. It's also worth noting, I know I said earlier to pick up the armor pieces. Gloves and belts are probably the least good pieces to pick up, and ironically I have lots of belts to sell here, but they are the least noticeable, especially belts, because they don't tend to make a huge impact. They're often overshadowed by the chest and leg pieces themselves. So with a few exceptions, there are belts. Belts are just the worst of the lot. Outlaw maces, another good one. Outlaw stuff comes from the bosses in Hugh's Bane, the two Delve bosses, I believe. If it's not the Delve bosses, it's the world bosses. But again, a zone that nobody really goes to. I mentioned that a little bit in the farming video I made for them. It is a one and done. You do the story out there if you're into doing the Thieves Guild quest line, so you might do that on a character or two, but overall you're probably not doing it on multiple characters. So we just make sure we price them at 20% higher than we bought them for, and we go ahead and list them. Order Hour comes from Gold Coast, from the Roar of the Crowds daily. That's the one where you're fighting in the arena, not the one where you kill that Minotaur boss. I think this one just doesn't have a lot on there because, one, Gold Coast isn't a popular zone either. It's much like Hugh's Bane in that way, in which people go there to do the Dark Brotherhood stuff and then they never come back. Or if they go there to do the Minotaur daily quests, the Looming Shadows, and they just sell those Minotaur pieces. The Minotaur pieces are valuable. Mazatoon obviously comes from Rune of Mazatoon. My guess is that these have low count just because people have already done this dungeon enough. It's an older dungeon. You can see it's crafting motif 45, so that means I think the last one they just released was like 119 or 120. So it's pretty old. Not a lot of people running this content. Additionally, I think it's veteran hard mode is the one that gives you a guaranteed drop, and it's not the easiest thing to do. People do still run it to get the achievement or to get the skin for doing the trifecta achievement, but other than that, I don't think a lot of people are running Mazatoon. I don't think any of the gear out there is meta. So these are ones that we can relatively, like, as you see, there's only 37 listings of these shields. Chances are pretty good that number is wrong. It's worth noting for TTC that oftentimes their listing number is out of date. It is not live updated, so when I bought one, it didn't drop to 36 temporarily, and it's not popping back up to 37. For all we know, there are 10 of those listings already sold. It's also worth noting that, what's the nice way of saying this? Some of the stuff that is listed on the store is just people funneling gold from one person to another. You'll see in some of the footage that I took that there are some prices out there that are fucking bananas. People are charging 200,000 gold, 300,000 gold for just like garbage motifs, primal or ancient elf or whatever that was. I can't remember what it's called. Ancient elf, or it's like number 13, 14. Not ancestral. Ancestral's a little different, but that's just gold laundering. That's people just moving gold from one character to another or a different account. Or it's people who are literally just hoping that people will pay anything. I have met a couple of people who don't believe in pricing, like, logically, if you will. They believe that you can just put up whatever you want and people will eventually buy it. I have not found that to be true, but I know there are people out there who think that. Sigic maces are a good one to sell. There's always a low supply of these just because people don't really do the dailies in, what is that, Somerset? They don't do the dailies in Somerset very often. Pyandonian are even better. I was tempted to price the Pyandonian ones way high, like 40 or 50%. Pyandonian pieces only come from the Pyandonian bottles that you get from fishing. Fishing is probably the least popular activity in this game. Trust me, I try to run a fishing party every few months with one of my guilds, and it's me and like 3 other people showing up 98% of the time. But Pyandonian only comes from there. It is still one of the easier sets to acquire for collecting, so collectors will often look for them. But the set also looks cool. That's a big bonus here. A lot of people like the way it looks. Both Sigic and Pyandonian have kind of a cool wizard vibe to them, and people like that. You know, there's a bunch of people who just play games to be Gandalf, which is no judgment. I don't care. So these are the sort of sets that often you can flip for a lot higher. The supply is almost always low. There's very rarely a glut of these. I don't think Zos ever offers a fishing event. Like I've played for 2.5, 3 years, and I can't recall there ever being a fishing event offered in the game. So it's a safe bet to always flip those. Huntsman and Deadwater and Honor Guard are all kind of in the same boat. They just come from dungeons that are not as popular as they used to be, and as such they usually have a pretty low count. There's not a lot to say here. What I'm doing when I'm not doing anything on the screen here is I have my calculator open and I'm making sure that I'm doing 20% correctly. Math is one of my least good skills, which is funny. I'm making a video about percents, etc. But I know how to get the answer I want with calculator. I just can't do it in my head. Some people have said that maybe I have number dyslexia, but I could just be dumb. And so I'm fine with either solution. If it's something that I can't control, like dyslexia, then whatever. If it's me just being dumb, well, I've made it this far. Anyway, just listing these away. Deadwater and Elder Argonian both used to be really, really valuable. They've dropped a little bit. It is worth noting, though, that the Elder Argonian feathers, the style material for those, do sell for a lot. They don't sell fast, but they do sell for a lot. I am hoping that all of these sell this week. However, I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket. I'm going to fill up this trader with my motifs, but I'm in multiple guilds, and I'll probably be making money off the side guilds as well, or the other guilds as well. But we always want to hope to clear our listings as fast as possible. One of the biggest critiques of selling motifs and recipes, and I'll make a video about recipe selling because it follows a similar principle, but we have to have a little bit more knowledge of the game. I'd say it's like a step above motif selling. But one of the big critiques of selling motifs is that they tend to linger and they tend to sit for a little while unless you price them super competitively or even cheap, which we're not doing when we're flipping. And that's very true. These can sit for a while. I've definitely priced motifs and the price has either dropped or the supply has skyrocketed and it sat for a week, 2 weeks. My good rule of thumb is if you are waiting for, I guess not waiting. If you've had something listed for over a week and you find yourself still not having it sold, then it's time to take that down and either hold on to it, which is very, very common. I do that all the time. I sit on motifs that I know are valuable or I know I could get more for, or it's time to relist it for a different price, a lower price. I'm hoping not to do that with any of these. We will check back in a week, like I said, and see how we did in terms of listing them. I know coming up I have some Cold Snap stuff. Cold Snap comes from Frost Vault, which is an annoying dungeon to finish. I don't think a lot of people do it on Vet. I know for a little while the Monster Helm was in meta, which might explain why these prices dropped, because they used to be a lot more. On a couple of these, you'll see that there's already like a price filled in on the unit price because that's the last price I sold it at. And on some of them, it's higher than what I'm listing right now. That was because the price used to be a lot higher. But I think at one point the monster helm and shoulders from here became desirable for a few builds, and so more people running it meant more people getting these motifs and putting them on the market. There's a slight glut. It is also worth noting at this point, as I'm recording this, we're about 2 months out from the anniversary event, so the market is still recovering a little bit. It used to bounce back a little bit faster. It was always safe to say that by July, the motif prices would be back to normal, but it doesn't look like that happened this year, so we're still playing it just a little bit cautiously. For those of you who don't know, during the anniversary event, it's pretty easy to get boxes that give you motifs. It's a great time to pick up the really, really expensive motifs. My favorite target is Dromothra. If you can target Dromothra chests during the anniversary event, especially like the week after, you can probably find some really cheap ones. And for Dromothra stuff, really cheap is like 100k. And you can then sit on them, and usually by wintertime, they're back to being worth $1 million. Minotaur chests are the same thing. So yeah, it's just after the anniversary. Well, just after, like I said, 2 months after the anniversary, the White Strakes Mayhem is going on. I did not pick up a single White Strakes Mayhem thing. But yeah, my listings are full up. Every single one of these is listed for 20% more. You'll see that the deal percentage that's being tossed up by ATT and MM is telling me that I've overpriced many of these motifs. It might be right, but I don't necessarily agree with it a lot of times. It's all based on numbers and averages. But anyway, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave any comments that you might have down below, and thank you for watching.